Hello, and welcome to my next tutorial on how to configure Vim for Python development. If you ever gone on Google and Googled what is my best text editor or IDE integrated development environment for programming, you'll see that the community is very passionate about what they use in order to program. Personally, I recommend Vim. If you want to use a different text editor, go right ahead. But if you've ever heard people say Vim isn't as powerful as some of the paid solutions, I want to say they're totally wrong and I recommend watching this tutorial because you'll see that Vim is actually very powerful. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is I have this new Lexi container, and I want to install a couple packages, Vim, Git Core, and wget. And I actually already installed these. Git Core is for Git. Git is a piece of software that helps manage software repositories. If you've ever heard of GitHub, which is usually a place where people publish public code, that's what we're going to use to get some Vim plugins, which are also stored on Git. Okay, so if you come to GitHub, and let's go back a bunch here. So this is where my repository starts. If you go to https://github.com/thechef17 and go to YouTube and then go to Vim, and then you want to get to this vimrc file. And this vimrc file essentially is the way Vim, all the settings are set in the Vim software. So you want to click raw here, and then you want to click this URL here, copy it, and come here. Make sure you're in your home directory, and I'm logged under root here. So I'm just do wget vimrc. I'm going to do move vimrc to .vimrc. And the reason I do this is just so I don't overwrite your current .vimrc file. So make sure if you already have this file there, that you copy what's in it out of it in case you wanted to save the settings there. Okay. So now let's make a directory called .vim. I'm going to go inside there, and we're going to actually create 4 directories. Here. Autoload, bundle, colors, FTP plugin. So if you go into this autoload, and you can see here that they're all created. Let's go into this autoload. This autoload one comes from if you just Google pathogen, pathogen, and then Vim, you'll come to this top GitHub repository. This autoloader script here, this pathogen.vim, I'm going to go to raw here to get the URL. This script automatically loads Vim plugins for you without having to quit out of Vim and go back into Vim and to have them essentially auto reload. It's going to auto reload the plugins for you, and it's a really nice script. So you just have to add that to this auto load script, and we're going to go back a directory, and then we're going to go into the bundles directory. Now we're going to clone 6 GitHub repositories that are essentially all Vim plugins, and I'll put these in the show notes below the video. So we cloned 6 repositories here. The CTR LP, the nerd tree, the Python mode, Vim nerd tree tabs, Vim powerline, Vim sensible. And these are basically just a bunch of Vim plugins to help you program in Python as well as configure Vim better to use as an IDE versus just a text editor. So let's go into colors. And I have the colors script, and it's called Wombat. It's in this directory here. Wombat256mod.vim. So click raw. This just helps the colors in Vim. And we're going to do this FTP plugin one, and this one's under Python editing. So click raw. And wget this one. So I'll show you what we just did. If you do ls, we have 4 directories, and the autoload has this pathogen.vim. The bundles directory has 6 GitHub repositories or Vim plugins we cloned from GitHub. Colors directory has this Wombat file, and the FTP plugin has this Python editing file. So yours should look similar to this. Okay, and let's go back to my home directory. Now if I go in this test.py, you'll see that this looks totally different from the way Vim used to look. The color coding's different. There's this tree, it's called the nerd tree over here. It's essentially a file explorer view of the system. So you can see we have our file here, test.py. And you can see all the color coding is actually better down here. Let's actually delete these lines because I'm going to actually re-show you what I did there. As soon as you write the file out, it's going to do a scan to see if there's any errors or warnings. For example, if you write a definition, and don't worry about this Python code, but it'll actually help you write your Python code. You can see here it says expected 2 blank lines, 0 found. So PEP8 is a Python standard for formatting of your code. So it'll actually help you do that. And you can see it put where the error was in this column over here. So it expects 2 blank lines here instead of just 1. So let's make sure we have 1, 2 blank lines, and then this error will go away. It also does checking, like if you do like something like this, it doesn't like these spaces around this equal sign here, and it'll actually tell you that. It says unexpected spaces around keyword. So let's fix that. The other thing too is if you import a module, let's say we import OS, but see we never used it, and it actually tell us that imported but unused. So that's actually some of the syntax checking it's doing during every time you save the file. So the other thing I want to show you is let's import a bunch of modules. So main as main. These were arg parser, import date time, import string, import time, import how about sub process. Now, usually Python developers like their imports in order, in alphabetical order, but you can see here they're not in alphabetical here. Now it's going to give me an error because I'm not using any of these modules in my code, but ignore that for now. So let's sort these before we quit out of the Vim editor. So you want to go into visual mode, so hit V, and then you want to select these, and then you want to hit the leader key, which the leader key I have mapped to is the comma key. So you just hit comma S, and you can see here it sorted all these alphabetically. So that's another feature that's in the .vimrc file, is to alphabetically sort whatever selected by hitting comma S. So now you can see that they're all sorted. So I'm actually going to comment these out because we're not actually using them. And it's complaining that there's not two blank lines here. So you always want to make sure it says found errors 0, 0. So we're actually going to move this over, and you can see there's 0 errors, and then this script should work fine. So we can actually come out here, change the executable bit on this file, and run it, and it works. Okay, so let's go back in here, and I'm going to actually show you a little bit more about how this nerd tree works on the right. So many times Python projects have tens of hundreds of files in them. Here we only have this one file here. But if you remember from the beginning of the tutorial, we actually created a .vimrc file. So let's actually switch over to the nerd tree. So you hit Control-WL, and you'll come over here. And if you hit question mark, it'll bring up all the options that the nerd tree can do. So the first thing I'm going to do is hit question mark again to get rid of it. But if you hit Shift-I, you'll see that it shows me all the hidden folders and files now. Now here's our .vimrc file. Now instead you can just split this by coming over here and hitting S, and now the vimrc file is split, and you can navigate it, change it, and then quit out of it, and then the other script will just snap back to the full screen. And that's essentially a split using the nerd tree. The other thing I want to show you is tabs. So if you've ever used an IDE with tabs, or Firefox or Chrome, Vim also supports tabs. So let's go over to the nerd tree here once again, and instead of hitting S here for split, just hit T, and now you'll see we have two tabs here. One is called test.py and one's called vimrc. To navigate between the tabs, it's the leader key, which is comma, and it's N to go back, as in Nancy, and M as in Mike to go forward. It'll also wrap around. So if you just hit comma M, you'll go back to the other script, and you'll do comma M again. It'll go forward to the next one. So it's pretty easy to switch between the tabs here using the comma M and comma N. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is show you, if you notice here, there's no nerd tree here. And in order to load it on this screen, you just want to hit comma T, and that's what I have it mapped as. And now once you do another split, or another tab, so instead of that, let's open up this bashrc script in a tab. You'll see now the nerd tree actually automatically loads on the right after you did the leader key T. So like leader key T actually is running the nerd tree tabs plugin. So now we have three tabs across the top: test.py, bash.rc, and vimrc. And just to get out of a tab, just quit out of it, and it'll go back to the previous tab. And now we're back here, and this is all the same. So that's how you can use tabs in Vim, is just go to the nerd tree, and then find the script you want, and then just hit T, and it'll do a tab. And then to navigate is comma M, comma N. And these are mapped in the vimrc file. If you can even see right here, it says let map leader equal comma. So anytime you see leader in this script here, like this leader E, so you can see here, leader E is mapped to QA to exclamation, and actually it says quit all windows. So that's actually a really nice one to know too. So if you hit leader shift E, let's see if this actually works. You got to do it quickly. There's like a time limit in between all of it. So if you just do leader shift E, it'll quit out of all of them. So that's how you can learn more about all the settings I have in my Vim RC file. And I'm not going to go through all of them here, but that's essentially how you can learn more about them. One last thing, a couple more things I want to show you is, let's actually open up this Vim RC one more time. And a lot of this stuff came from this Martin guy. I'll put a link in the show notes, and probably even a link in the video to this video from Martin from PyCon 2012. And most of this stuff actually came from him, but I've also added a lot of stuff over time. This, as you can see, this is from 2012, so it's already 3 years old. So I've actually added a lot of stuff, but a lot of what came from this tutorial is from his tutorial as well. Okay, the next thing I want to show you is, have you ever had problems copying pasting from the Linux clipboard into Vim? There's a way to fix that, and I've had tons and tons of problems, and this is not from that guy, Martin. I found this just finally on Google. So what you want to do is, so for example, I copy paste. This is like the licensing agreement. I copy and paste into all my scripts. Now, if you just copied this in here, sorry, let's go back there actually for a second. Let's copy all this. It's when it gets to the code that it screws up actually, because Python is determined by indentation. So sometimes when you copy and paste stuff, the indentation messes up, and that could really screw up a script. Also, the way some of these plugins work, it's trying to look at your code and make sure that it's correct. And the plugin doesn't work very well when you copy paste stuff. So there's actually a way to fix that. So I come into this new script and I go into insert mode. So it says I for insert mode at the bottom here. I just hit I. And then I hit F2. And you'll see it says paste here. And once you're in this paste mode, and I hit F2 for that, now you can right click and go to paste. And you can see here, it immediately pasted all the script. And don't worry about what this red basically means that spaces. But as you can see, everything is lined up correctly. If you've ever tried to copy paste classes or methods or definitions or whatever in Python into Vim, they usually get screwed up with the way the paste works. So now if you just hit escape and then you write this out, it'll remove all the red there, and it'll actually just tell you what all the errors again once I fix those. There's no errors. It pasted fine, and that's how you can paste into Vim from the Linux clipboard and not have any issues. The other thing is pasting out of Vim is sometimes a little tough, because if, for example, you want to paste this stuff or copy this stuff, you're going to copy what's over here. You're going to copy these line numbers. So there's a little bit of formatting you want to do before you do that. So let's go to the nerd tree and let's quit out of it, because we don't want those copied. The next command you want to do is do set no number, and that'll get rid of the line numbers here. So now you can actually copy this, and when you paste it into a new document here, you won't have the line numbers. This is the line numbers from the text editor itself, and you won't have the nerd tree stuff on the right here. If you don't remember to close out of it, you'll get that pasted text from the nerd tree over here too. So forewarning, that's how you can copy and paste better in and out of Vim. The next thing I want to show you is in Python, everything is usually, and in many programming languages, not just Python, there's lots of indentation in Python. So, for example, you can see that this is indented here. But many times you'll have to move stuff left and right in order to line it up correctly on where you want it in the script. For example, this is a bad example. Say I want to move these all to the right one. So I do V for visual mode, and I select what I want, and then I hit Shift and the arrow key, and this will move it over. And if you don't do the line with the definition, you got to be careful because it will see how it moves down there a little bit. Let's undo these. But that's how you move blocks of code left and right. So you go into visual mode, you select the code you want, and then you can hit Shift right arrow or Shift left arrow, and it'll move it over. You can move it over as far as you want or move it left as far as you want. So that's how you can move entire blocks of code left and right. So that's another hugely important feature when you're programming, is to move blocks of code left and right. Okay, so the next feature I want to show you is, let's quit out of this. I'm going to clear this. I have a new Lexi container here. If I go into here, you can see that Vim isn't set up. There's no nerd tree on the right. All the coloring's wrong. But there is a way to say, take my current Vim settings and edit this file on the remote machine. And this is a great feature for if you're a system administrator. You can actually say, edit these files remotely, but use my Vim settings. And it's actually a combination of a couple commands. So it's the first thing you need to do is make sure. So I'm on this machine. You want to make sure your SSH keys are set up correctly. So if you come back here, this is the one with VI set up correctly. You want to be able to remote into the machine automatically that you want to edit the file on. And I will probably do another tutorial on this on how to set up your SSH keys. But if you just Google it, it's pretty easy to do. And the reason you want to do this is because once you go to edit the file, you don't want to be it'll prompt you for the password every single time you go to edit it and save it. So unless you have this feature where you log in, see how it logs in immediately automatically, it's going to be a really big pain to put the password in every single time. Okay, so you want to make sure that's set up correctly. Now here's the command. You just want to do vim scp : the username of the machine you want and the IP. So this one is 3.10.0.3.33. You want double slash here, and you want the directory you want, and you want test.py. So we're actually editing this file right here on this remote machine. So if I look at this, you can see, I'll show you it before I edit it. I actually did this tutorial a couple times. It says, let's actually change, we're actually going to delete this file here, or delete that line here. Let's write it out and quit. We're going to come back here and hit enter. And hit enter again. If you saw there, it copied this file to a temporary directory on your machine. And every time you save it now, it's going to remote it to or send it to the next machine. Now, just be careful. The nerd tree on the right here is not the remote machine. It's your local machine. So you can't really use the nerd tree to edit remote files like you would here. So just forewarning. This is more like you need to fix a script on a remote server. So let's edit the script and do print. This is great because now I can use all these Vim settings across servers. And you can actually see here this without having to actually configure them. Let's move this out of the way. So this is what I'm putting into this file from the remote machine. And you can even see here if I do like import OS here, it's going to complain about it. Right here, it says, why did you import OS? So it does all the remote checking, the syntax checking here as well. So I wrote this out. There's no errors. You can see that it, unfortunately, it doesn't say 0 errors anymore because it's doing this SCP at the bottom here. So let's quit out of here. But as long as you have no, you'll know when you have errors. We're going to come back to the remote machine, and we're going to go into this file, and you can see here it has our new settings. And we can actually run this, and this should actually run. And there you go. It says, this is great. Now I can use all these Vim settings across. Probably the worst grammar ever. But you can see here, here's the command one more time. It's vim scp : //root at, so this is the username, the IP address. You want double slashes here, and the directory you want to edit. And you can even edit remote files. So like, let's just say we want to do hello.txt here. And just say, let's put my name in here, Dan Scheffner. Let's see if that actually worked. So now you have this file on the remote machine. And it's written to. So that's how you can edit files remotely using your Vim settings. And you don't even have to configure this machine with Vim. It has Vim, but it just doesn't have all the plugins and all the settings that we went through. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you is this Lexi container is new. It doesn't have any settings. I don't even have that test.py script here. If I did test.py, you can see here it doesn't have the nerd tree or anything. I know this was a lot of steps and a lot of configuration, so I actually wrote a script for this. And if you go to my GitHub repository and go to YouTube, and then go to Vim, and then go to vim.py, and then click raw, this script will basically will configure your entire machine with the Vim settings I just went through. So you want to do wget that script, and we just want to change mod plus x Vim. This script accepts a user. So if you want to configure Vim for root, just do .vim-u root. If you want Ubuntu, do Ubuntu. If you want, sometimes I use the Chef17 for my usernames. Whatever username you want this configured as, you want to pass it to the script. So I do ./vim.py -u and then root. And then we're going to run this script. And you're going to see here in about less than a minute, we're going to have Vim completely configured for the root user, which is actually really nice. And I'm going to try to keep this script up to date and as well as add new features as I learn Vim more. So you can see here it took about 25 seconds to complete this script. You can see here we have vimrc. If you go into the Vim directory, you can see the bundle. You can see all the things are here. So in 25 seconds, we configured Vim with the nerd tree and everything set up. So once you understand how and what the script is doing in this tutorial, I recommend just running that script, and it's checked into GitHub on it's just github.com/thechef17, YouTube, and then Vim, and then vim.py. And I'll keep editing this script, and it'll probably even get better over time. So make sure you rerun it. I'll probably actually add some features to like actually clean it up and rerun it again, because it doesn't actually. There is no cleanup of the way. There's no way to get rid of Vim, for example. So like if you wanted to get rid of Vim, and actually I can show you that really quickly here. If you do remove -rf, and be very careful when you run this command, but you want to remove this directory, and you want to remove your vimrc file, and essentially Vim is back to the way it was when the system was installed. And you can see here there's no nerd tree at all. So that's how to get rid of all the settings we configured if you wanted to get rid of them. So that's pretty much my second crash course on how to use Vim. Please post any comments in the video below, and please subscribe. Thanks for watching.